Exhorder? I hardly know her! Ha ha! Bazinga! Bada bing, bada boom! Catchphrase! Alright. Settle down, guys. Settle down! God damn it, it wasn't that bad. It's just a joke. Jeez. Good morning, metalheads of the internet, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Metal Meltdown. Today we are talking about the latest studio album from Exhorder entitled Defectum Omnium. This is the fourth full-length studio album and the first in nearly 5 years from this crew of American metal underdogs, from these pioneers of the signature New Orleans, Louisiana metal sound and style and vibe and aesthetic, and also, more importantly, of this fun little thing that we know of as groove metal, which may or may not have just totally dominated the metal scene in the 90s into the early 2000s. Maybe. I don't know. It's possible. Exhorder kind of occupy a territory similar to that of like Anvil or Venom or Possessed in a way. Kind of, sort of. Like, they may not have been the most popular or influential metal band of their time, let alone of all time, but they definitely did pave the way for some of the most influential and popular bands of their time, and possibly of all time. Like, if it weren't for records like Slaughter of the Vatican and The Law, there's a real argument to be made that groove metal, and by extension bands like Pantera, Lamb of God, Machine Head, they don't exist, at least not in the same fashion that they do now, or that they did when they were releasing their most seminal and iconic and influential records. Now, because of this, and even despite being inactive for such a long period of time in between The Law in 1992 and Mourn the Southern Skies in 2019, Exhorder have enjoyed some underground metal clout and even a cult-like status. I remember a lot of heads were turning back in 2019, though, when the aforementioned Mourn the Southern Skies dropped, because it was definitely an Exhorder record, but it was also a little bit more varied and flexible. Exhorder were wearing Southern New Orleans doom and sludge metal influences proudly on their sleeve, combining that with their signature spin on thrash and groove metal. It made for an album dripping with emotion and atmosphere and filled with tons of satisfying, ass-kicking, cutthroat grooves and riffs and beatdowns. With this in mind, I had no reason not to be excited for Defectum Omnium. I was ever so briefly slightly concerned when I had heard that Vinny Labella, longtime guitarist and founding member, had left the band, but I became excited once again once I had heard that his replacement was none other than former Cannibal Corpse axe slinger Pat O'Brien. Now, I will say, right off the bat, if you are not a fan of Mourn the Southern Skies, you are not going to enjoy this record. If you're coming into this looking for a more old-school kind of groove metal, thrash metal experience, this ain't it. Move on. If, however, you want Exhorder to continue with the musical trajectory of Mourn the Southern Skies and you're excited to hear their signature sound blended with a variety of different ideas and spices, boom, you've come to the right place. I will say I do think this is a bit of a step down in some aspects from Mourn the Southern Skies. It is occasionally a little bit incohesive, and it appears to be a little bit too ambitious for its own good. Some tracks, I would say, are just underdeveloped, and they have this kind of unfinished, unpolished kind of feel to them. But overall, it's a really solid record with some genuinely great moments. Take, for instance, opening number Raph of Prophecies, a meaty, gnarly, cutthroat, thrash metal, groove metal hybrid banger with huge, churning, pulverizing riffs and grooves, dark, moody, melodic vocals, some big, titanic metal beatdowns. Think like mid to late 90s Overkill and Death Angel with just a dash of modern day Anthrax, and you're kind of in the right ballpark. Then there's Forever and Beyond Despair, which does a pretty good job at combining like really intense, in-your-face kind of like hardcore punk and crossover thrash with like deep-fried southern sludge metal. Like, there's some really dank, swampy riffs and grooves and sections kind of sandwiched in between some really nice, aggressive, battering percussive blasts and screaming, shouting vocals. Eventually, later on in the album, Exhorder take that hardcore punk influence to the next level with Sedition, a very basic but fun and chaotic kind of punk rager. I like that it can feel kind of manic and messy and gritty, while overall having a pretty clean and transparent sound. I like the prominent punky bass tones. It does kind of maybe feel like a Gwar B-side, but overall, a fun cut. And then there's Year of the Goat, which appears to incorporate black metal influence, both in the chorus, which honestly feels like something pulled from the blackened death metal realms of maybe like early 2000s Behemoth or Belphegor, and also in the song's very opening, with a section of blistering old school black metal that could have easily been pulled from like some long forgotten second wave Norwegian black metal demo from like 1991 or some shit. And they're able to do this while maintaining a pretty thrashy momentum and spirit all through the cut. Like, the change to black metal and blackened death metal doesn't feel too drastic. The song never feels too dark. It's pretty effective. Ultimately, though, it's the double whammy, or if you prefer, quadruple whammy, because there's 2 parts to each of these 2 songs, of Defectum Omnium Stolen Hope and 3 Stages of Truth Lacing the Well that really steals the show here. With the former tracks combining very eerie and ominous Italian choral vocal work with this very dark, heavy, almost Candlemass meets Pantera kind of doom sludge groove metal, while the latter tracks complement and embolden a darker, moodier take on classic Slaughter in the Vatican era thrash and groove metal with some rustic and atmospheric acoustic guitar sections. And though The Tale of Unsound Minds is probably one of the least effective cuts on the record, I still kind of want to mention it and give it props for like kind of trying to combine like sounds and vibes and grooves and movements that I would associate with like Crowbar and Alice in Chains. Like, you have a bunch of different vocal dynamics, you have these more psychedelic vocal wails and some guttural vocals combined with some slow, drudging grooves. Not a successful endeavor in my opinion, but a noble one. Props to Exhorder for giving it a shot. Kyle Thomas sounds pretty good vocally across the record, but his lyrics leave a lot to be desired. I mean, sometimes he can instill these songs with a real sense of, like, dread and nihilism and, like, hopelessness, but other times he just kind of sounds like a goofy edgelord. Take, for instance, some of these sections from the aforementioned Year of the Goat. It's better to lose a friend than to feed an enemy again. It's the Year of the Goat. I'm a fucking ram. Chance the Lucky 13, life is good when you sip the cream. Test your skills and the blessings will rub off. Life is good when you sip the cream. What does that even mean? Genuine honest question here. What does that even fucking mean? And honestly, I kind of feel like Pat O'Brien is a little underutilized here. I mean, don't get me wrong, plenty of badass fucking riffs, but a lot of the guitar solos play things pretty fucking safe. And I don't know, I think a little bit of classic Cannibal Corpse-esque axe-slinging mayhem would probably do this record some good in some parts. Overall, I'm feeling a mostly solid, mildly enthusiastic 3.5 out of 5. Warts and all, I did really enjoy, like, the vast majority of what is on this record. I think some things could be tweaked, I think some things could be better executed and presented, but man, when this thing hits, it genuinely does hit pretty hard. And though obviously I have no clue what Exhorder plans to do in the future, I do hope that they continue to make music, because there's a lot of stuff on here where I'm like, I see potential in this being explored further, you know? So give it a shot. Why not? Fuck it. I mean, I know most of y'all are going to be jamming the new Judas Priest record this weekend, as well as like Skeletal Remains and Midnight, and that's all fine and good, but if you're looking for something maybe just a little bit funky, a little bit different, I think this might do the trick. Solid, mildly enthusiastic 3.5 out of 5. I think it's a good record. Check it out. And that is it for the Metal Meltdown. I'm not an expert, nor do I claim to be. So what do you think? Do you like this record? Do you not like this record? And what do you want to hear from me next? And thank you for watching. Make sure you press subscribe right here so you get updates on the Metal Meltdown fucking immediately. Look, there's even more videos here. And as always, you have yourself a fantastic fucking day.